When we last left off, Balerion gave the Decepticons a speedy beatdown, and Arachnid grabbed the staff and they retreated. So now we continue where we left off, with the Decepticons now coming into consciousness. All of them pretty much regrouping around Megatron at this moment. And well, I can't really say things are going swimmingly. And that's not a pun intended, but still actually pretty funny, isn't it? And this is where Megatron simply looks around and asks them, "Where's the staff? I could have sworn I just had it." To which the Decepticons look at each other, and then Dreadwing, the new second in command, is pretty much stating that, well, my lord, Arachnid took it while you were unconscious. To which Megatron states, not only has that dragon been a pain in my rear since the moment he came, but now I must, but before he can finish, he spots Naga and Cannibal both getting up, telling Cannibal to simply stand down or pretty much sit like an obedient animal. This is where Megatron walks over to him and asks Naga, "Do you have anything I need, considering the resources we have just been wasted on this pointless ambush?" Keep in mind, Megatron's still in the Sharkticon mode. And he says, "Yes, I can still take you to Mech if you like. Use their resources. Maybe even build your own army. I do have my own followers as well that could be resurrected from their technology." To which Megatron thinks for a minute and says, "Good, because right now you're going to have to prove your loyalty to me, and I do not take kindly to this. Knockout and Breakdown will go with you." And this is where Knockout and Breakdown kind of look at each other, and Knockout's like, "Hey, so we're gonna take out those humans that experimented on you. Happy?" To which Breakdown simply smiles and states, "Oh, he can't wait to show the exact upgrades he has to crush Silas." Meanwhile, back at the Autobot base, things are going far better for the Autobots this time. Not only have they been upgraded, they've been upgraded to a whole new level. Now, again, I do understand that most of them aren't really in Transformers universe, but they do look like their counterparts. So just kind of picture it like this, with all the Autobots there receiving their upgrades and stuff like that. So everyone's pretty much happy with their new bodies and everything. And we actually see some of them testing out their new vehicle modes or their new agility along with their new weaponry and stuff like that. We see Bumblebee actually testing it by crushing a box that Ratchet didn't need this time, and Strongarm actually taking out her blaster and looking at it as if a new kid had a toy. However, one person's just simply not in the mood to kind of look at herself, and it's Arachnid. She wonders where Balerion is. But that's when we pan over to outside the Autobot base, more so on the, I guess you could say, the roof area. And Balerion's looking at Crimson and Frost, who are both talking amongst themselves, and he approaches them, asking them, what is going on now? To which Crimson simply states, "Oh, hi, Lord Balerion." And he looks at them curiously. "Lord?" To which he says, "Yes, you are, well," and Frost pretty much interjects, "You are an alpha dragon, or an apex dragon, if you will, the highest class possible." And we kind of get a good look at Balerion. He's a lot more darker in his scales, and he has a much more crimson, I guess you could say, mane, if you will. And this is where he asks them, "What do you mean, alpha?" To which he says, "Well, right now we really can't explain. We have to go and report back to our queen and kind of give her the situation." To which Balerion grunges, or scrunches his face and tells them to leave. So as they leave, Arachnid takes this time to approach him, saying, "There's my handsome dragon, looking all dominant as ever." And this is where Balerion turns to Arachnid, and he's kind of like not in the mood, but he can't hide like a little bit of a smile at what she said. And this is where she simply asks him, "So, how does it feel with your new body? And what's this whole talk about an Apex Dragon?" So Balerion actually opens up and explains how back then there were more than just him. Dragons of many kinds of varieties. And then Arachnid simply asks, What drove y'all, or drove them to extinction, wasn't the cannibal. And Balerion simply does explain that while the cannibal was a rogue dragon, someone that should have been put down years ago, it wasn't that. The dragons went to war with the wyverns and their own alpha, if you will. And he had a team back then. A team of dragons and, well, I guess you could say of different variety and different kinds. One land, one elemental, and one insectoid. To which Balerion states he kind of kept them together through, I guess you could say, his wisdom, not power. He wasn't even the most powerful of that group. And to which Arachnid says, well, look at you now. Probably more powerful than what you were before. And this new body of yours takes a liking to me, or I take a liking to it. And so before Balerion can respond, Arachnid grabs him by the face, pulls him close, and kisses him. Meanwhile, back at the Harbinger, we see Dirge and Thrust finally arrive, to which they both run in stating, Starscream, Starscream, you're not going to believe what happened. Meanwhile, Starscream's kind of thinking right now, how can he get an edge? How can he get a, way to against the Autobots? To which this is where Thrust simply states, yo, Starscream, big boss, Lord Starscream, you reading me? To which Starscream's like, oh, yes, what did you guys find, my faithful servants? To which Thrust explains, yo, Megatron's got a whole sea serpent now. To which Starscream's like, what? Are you kidding me? I can't have nothing around here. The Autobots get a beast. Megatron gets 2 beasts now. And to which Thrust says, wait. Or Dirge says, excuse me, wait. But we got something for you. And he holds up this talisman. So Starscream takes it. But this is where the talisman finally activates. It says, yes, a worthy soul. And Starscream feels himself get enveloped in this green energy. And it doesn't take long for him to stop screaming, and he pretty much conforms into this design. I know it's like Wingblade from Transformers, but I found this, artwork for it, and I just love it. And so this is where the spirit or manifestation of the spirit of Morgan Le Fay pretty much appears before him, saying, yes, Starscream. I like you. You remind me of myself. Very deceptive, very mischievous. I could help you. To which Starscream says, oh, really? You could help me? And what is it that you can help me with? I could give you an army. I could give you a beast that would put those two to shame. And I could make it all the more better for you in the end. You could rise up and even surpass, or should I say, supplant yourself as leader of the Decepticons. To which Starscream says, I am listening. To which Morgan Le Fay says, good. I will give you the coordinates immediately. So she actually utilizes her space spray or her magic to actually create a portal. And so Starscream, Dirge, and Thrust both descend onto the scene, with both of them actually looking a bit bewildered at what they see. And this is where we get a new location, that being the Crimson Gorge. I would actually have this be somewhere in I'll probably say Africa. It's more of a remote area where no humans dare to go. And animals actually aren't even in this area. Maybe a few rodents and stuff like that, but nothing big or hefty even comes here. And Starscream says, good. He could use this. To which Morgan Le Fay says, great. Now, you'll need to find their apex and resurrect them first. And don't worry, you will have the magic control them. And so this is where they begin to scour the entire area until Starscream finds it. And he's just like, yes, perfect. And he begins utilizing the magic of Morgan Le Fay to resurrect it. To which Thrust says, are you trusting her? To which Starscream says, oh yes, this will be very simple. Morgan does need a host and needs a worthy soul to really bring herself out. So he is going to trust that this mortal is not, foolish. To which Morgan Le Fay says, there is no deception in me, my dear Starscream. I will give you full control. Just watch. And so Starscream resurrects the Crimson Dragon. Guys, McGorm. And everything turns red when he awakens. The red flame spewing out of his back becomes solid crystals. And this is where he says, my army, Rise and serve your apex. Rise and serve your new master. And we see a flurry of wyverns, skin envelop on their bones again, and they simply take to the skies. Meanwhile, back at the Autobot base, this is where Balerion and Arachnid finally make their way down, with him giving the Autobots the news that, well, Crimson and Frost had simply left Earth. However, Ratchet says, well, that doesn't matter. I have a surprise for you that you should like. And this is where Balerion walks over to Ratchet, and Ratchet is actually pretty happy about this because the staff has shown him wonders and everything that he could never hope for. And this is where he asks him, what is it? And this is where the map or the staff itself pretty much shows everything. It actually shows a supply of energon here on Earth, but not only that, it also shows the tomb of the other dragons, old friends of Balerion. And this is where it shows Eruzarian, the Elemental, Australian, the Brute Fighter, and then finally, last but not least, they show Antelka, the Mechanic or the Weaver dragon. I know she's a Neo-Opteran, but for this story, she's a dragon. However, at the same time, Smokescreen crash lands on Earth, just like in the original. And so as the Autobots are about to go to engage with him like in canon, this is where Agent Fowler chimes in, telling them that they have an emergency right now. They've actually in African's airspace right now, and well, Agent Fowler simply states that right now they're not going to like what he's seeing. And this is where he shows the Autobots a very disturbing image, one that Balerion is literally starstruck in awe at this, into which Arachnid simply asks, is that them? Yes, those are the wyverns. And that's where we're going to leave it off here, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends, and I'll see you guys for another part.